Kings and queens, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. We have an exciting video for you guys. Today, we are joined by Paulie Esther and Mathieu Cote. How are you gentlemen doing today?
Very fine, thank you.
Yes, having a good day.
So, we are going to basically do our annual tradition, essentially, of interviewing Mathieu Cote, and I called in for backup today. We got Paulie Esther, so Mathieu is in for a world of pain. We're gonna ask him all the tough questions, everything that you need to know.
No.
The briefing before, we're like, softballs only. Don't worry, Mathieu, you'll be fine.
I know you two are very gentle.
So we're gonna have a lot of fun with this today. This is gonna be broken down into two parts. The first interview is going to be your standard type of questions. We'll talk a little bit about the new stuff and elaborate on all those cool things. The second part of the interview will be a quick fire question air, as well as some open extended questions. It'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully we can get Mathieu the crack on some of these questions. With that being said, I think we can start. Paulie, would you like to start us off today, my friend?
All right, thank you, King. Okay, so in lights of this morning's news, I think the first question has to be about Jason Voorhees. We got information that Victor Miller has won the appeal in the Friday the 13th lawsuit, and the judgment has come through, reaffirming his rights to reclaim his rights to Jason. So my question to you would be, it seems a little too early to pick up the phone and start calling people, but how closely would you say that your company monitors this situation? Because I'm assuming that you've said before that Jason always has a place.
Well,
so how
enough,
important is this?
I was just reading about that myself. I was reading that article. It's very interesting. Yeah, of course. Like you said, we've said in the past, and anybody who's got two brain cells to rub together knows that, you know, Jason would make a very fine addition to any museum of horror, such as we are trying to build with Dead by Daylight. I think that there are a lot of people out there involved in this very, very complex issue. Jason is a far-reaching character. He's got many different iterations. Victor Miller, as I understand it, owns the right to the very, very first one, where actually Jason is not the Jason that we know. Mostly, it's the mother, I believe, at this point. But that's besides the point. It's true that that very complex legal issue is now slightly less complex, I'd say. There's still quite a lot of players involved. So, yeah, without giving you the runaround for another 30 minutes, I can say that it is a very interesting piece of news that I obviously pay very close attention to, and who knows what comes out of it.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff, though. Everyone's right away. Jason's coming to DBD. Get your videos out.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically the community's perspective. It was like, easy. Now we can get
That's
Jason,
done.
but it's
that's
like a much
not
more complex
exactly
issue.
how these things go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish it was, but it's not. But obviously, some of the legal brambles have been cleared, but it's still a very complex issue.
Hopefully those two parties can start to work together with one another and stop suing each other and move on so they can both make money.
Maybe one of them actually plays Dead by Daylight and can't wait to get on the phone with me. So, just a matter of trying to find
one
my
can only
phone
hope.
number.
I will say I have noticed that Victor Miller follows Dead by Daylight on Twitter, but, you know...
Did you notice that? Huh. You noticed that kind of thing, did you?
Imagine I pick up on those kind of things from time to time.
Hey.
Oh, man. But definitely some exciting news there.
On that note, Paulie, you've certainly taught me to be extremely cautious about everything that I do. Like, I walk outside of my house and I look into the sky to see if maybe there's a drone or something, you know.
I see. I'm like, hey, there's only 45 accounts on Instagram that Dead by Daylight's following, and one of them is Norman Reedus. Does that mean something? Or are people messing with me?
Well, you are quite a lot of fun to mess with, I'll say.
Thank you. I appreciate being messed with too.
Matthew's camera turns on, Paulie's like, all right, let me see those Funko Pops, looking on all the shelves over there.
No, I don't think I have any Funkos on the shelves there. There's a creeper right there.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we're coming to Minecraft anytime
Right,
soon.
the theories. Listen, anything's possible. I've seen people go for you
Well, the
because you said
creeper
balloon
would be
animals.
a very interesting killer for Dead by Daylight, but yeah, that's different audience.
Different audience. You never know. People go for the balloon animal tweets, so you never know what could be possible.
That's
But,
a stupid thing too. Okay.
With that being said, though, let's talk a little bit more about DBD, especially in recent news. You guys got Pinhead into Dead by Daylight, absolutely massive. I remember when the Chains of Hate DLC came out, Paulie and I were like, oh my god,
Yeah.
Chains, it has to be Pinhead, and now finally they're in the game, so it's really awesome. So walk me through all of that. How did that come about? Who picked up the phone first? Where did it all go down? And how do you feel about it overall?
Well, I mean, I think that probably the question I got asked the most in the last 5 years was, if you could pick anything, who would you like to see in Dead by Daylight? And one of the rare ones that I've pinpointed is Pinhead. Actually, a couple of times I've come forward and said that I think that the Cenobites and the Hellraiser universe, just the visuals of it and how iconic it is in the world of horror, I thought that it was a perfect fit for Dead by Daylight. It was sort of a long one in the making. There's many reasons for that. All of these conversations are always extremely confidential, so I have to be very careful about what I say when I talk about these. But the difficulty for this one was mostly to try to get in touch with the right people. Once that was done, getting the contract settled was a simple matter. It was not a very complex one. It's just a matter of finding the right people to talk to, and then once that was done, that was good. We were good to go. And I mean, it's interesting because I don't think that Hellraiser necessarily stands out as the most watched or talked about horror movie out there, but it's sort of cemented our claim as a museum of horror. I think that it's like we for the last year and a half or so, I was talking about the Hall of Fame of horror to a certain extent, and I mentioned that expression a couple of times because I think it's a very good way to present it. And I was talking to a journalist a few weeks back, or maybe a few months, and they mentioned something about new generations discovering these things because we brought to them. And I thought it was very interesting in a certain sense that we have not necessarily a duty, and I'm not gonna make it sound more necessarily more noble than it is, but there is something to be said for creating a place where younger generations can be put in contact with these things that were great, that were legendary, that were created a while ago, and that they would not necessarily know about. In the same sense that a museum is a place where you go and enjoy somebody else's art and see these things put in a context together to paint a picture of the culture that brought these things forth. So I think that having Hellraiser come to Dead by Daylight, to me at least personally, it is sort of legitimizing that notion that Dead by Daylight is now a bit of a museum of horror where you can walk down the halls of these legends of the past and be put in contact with all these different, properties that were created, and it sort of gives you a hint. And if you're interested, maybe you go dig deeper. If you're not, it doesn't matter, but you will see all of these things that sort of play off of each other, because even though they were never in the same movie together or the same show or whatever, they all lived in the same culture and they all influenced each other to a certain extent. So that's how I see it, and that's why Hellraiser, having Pinhead in the game, was so significant for me.
Well, just a testament to what you've said there. I can't tell you how many times on comments on YouTube videos or people tweeted at me that so Pinhead definitely has a recognizability factor. Like, you maybe have never seen a single movie that Pinhead's been in, but you know who it is just by looking at a picture. And I had so many people say to me that they had never seen any of the Hellraiser movies, but now that Pinhead was in the game, they wanted to know more about the character, and they went back and sought out those films and started watching them. So, like you said, they're learning about the character because of Dead by Daylight.
So it's educational, really.
That's right. Now, to segue off of the Friday the 13th lawsuit, there are people who have pointed to Clive Barker regaining his rights at the end of December of this year, and they have concerns about that. Obviously, you know, you probably can't get into this too much, but do you have any of those same concerns?
No.
Fair.
I will say that we are learning a few things about how to craft these agreements as time goes by. One of the things that is extremely important, that is there from the beginning, is that once those characters make it into Dead by Daylight, they need to stay in Dead by Daylight forever. Like, if you buy Pinhead, you will be able to play Pinhead for as long as Dead by Daylight exists. And that's true of every single license that we have out there, including Stranger Things.
Right.
The notion of being able to still purchase them is a different matter. And it's something that we are fighting tooth and nail to make sure that we keep. But that's not always possible, as we've shown.
Mm-hmm.
Righty, and on the topic of Pinhead, a lot of folks in the community have been asking, and then this one might be a long shot. I don't know how much you could talk about it. The voice lines, where did they go? Is it a bug? Would we see them coming back? Anything you can share?
You're absolutely correct. I cannot share much.
Righty.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can say that we missed them. We knew in the PTB that they weren't final, and I will stop talking now.
Okay.
Righty. That's it. My gears in my head are turning.
yeah, same. All right, I won't speculate because you won't. No sense of me openly speculating because you won't be able to comment on it.
I can enjoy it.
Seeing all the gears turning, it's like, this is what I live for. It's interesting though, but we'll carry on. We'll carry on. We'll talk about some more new things that are in the game. You guys recently introduced the newest survivor into the game, Michaela Reed. Really awesome. We were putting all the clues together. Absolutely love her. Really enjoy the perks as well. Before we get into the whole nitty gritty of everything, just talk a little bit about the survivor and how you feel bringing her into the game and the aspects and everything that she pulls from.
Like, this one was super interesting because I think it was a little bit, I don't know what's the right word to say that. Not edgy, but it was a bit divisive. Like, there were people on both sides of this because she is she's very quirky and she's very, very relatable to a lot of people. And therefore it made it extremely delicate because we wanted to make sure to bring her with the same amount of respect that we put into each piece of survivor that we bring into the game. We wanted to make sure that it was not a cliche, but still hit those notes that are common to so many people. So it was very hard navigating this. I think that the creative team did an amazing job on bringing a character that is extremely appealing and super quirky and really, really fits in perfectly with Dead by Daylight. I think she's on the a bit less serious side of things. As compared to other characters who are maybe much more dramatic or serious, but she still has some darkness to her that's very interesting and that stays very, very true to what we do.
Yeah.
So I think so there was the announcement today about the Halloween event. Did that trigger her release? Did you want to have her out before we got to October? Why not just save her for a chapter?
Well, the idea here was that we knew that the Hellraiser chapter would not contain a survivor. And crazy enough, we decided that we still wanted to give players another survivor in that same time frame, but we didn't want to release her at the same time as the Hellraiser chapter because that would make no sense. Just as a context, it just doesn't work to release two things that are the same but completely different. So we tried this for the first time to just sort of move the timeline a little bit. I think it worked really well. First of all, it was surprising. A lot of people didn't expect to see a survivor come out at this time, and it allowed us time to focus on a few other things and polish things. So it was great. That was the idea. It was just to not release it at the same time as Hellraiser, to not mix things up. But we wanted to give, like, we could have just said, we've done it in the past with Ghostface, for instance. Or Leatherface, where we just release a killer and say, this is the chapter, enjoy it, sometimes we like to add more. Yeah.
Even Ash by himself too.
Yeah, but he was a survivor. Yeah, but he came out by himself. But Ash is, it's fucking Bruce Campbell. You gotta you gotta give him the space he's too big for everything. So we had to make space for him. Like, he couldn't come out at the same time as anything else. He's just Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Is there a fear like that an original standalone character without like a full chapter like sales? Is it like is there a draw? Because the survivors are basically all just kind of skins and interchangeable, other than if you relate to them on a lore level or a personality level or a nationality level, whatever it may be.
There's perks too.
Yes, right. So was there some pressure like, well, the perks have to be really good for this survivor?
Not more than any time we create a new perk. And when we know, whenever we create characters, we know we have a long list of sort of perks in our backlog that we say at some point we'll do this or this. And then some of them are created on the fly because they just fit too well with the personality or the character that we're creating. And we know that usually, I say we know, but let's say I know. I'll speak in my own name for this one, but I'll say that we know that, I said, I know. I know that usually when we release a new character, like we release 3 perks, there's usually one that's really, really good and people catch on and enjoy, and a lot of people, like a vast group of people, will now use that perk regularly. There's usually one that's sort of middle of the ground that some people will use sometimes, or like if you don't have access to all the perks, you might use this one. And then there's one that people sort of go, and kind of forget about it. And I think that that's okay. They can't all be the best, because that just does not make sense. But the important thing is they all bring something interesting, or at least something that's going to be fun for you to try and play for a couple of hours and go, yeah, that was interesting, but that's not what I like to play. And that's absolutely okay. There's so many mechanics in the game at this point. Bringing 3 new perks means that we can't break everything with each perk. Like, maybe one of them can really change things up in a drastic way. But if we were to screw everything up every time with all 3 perks for every character that we release, the game would be even more of a chaotic maelstrom than it is right now. It's kind of chaotic right now, but we're embracing that now. We used to rebel against it and fight back and try to balance everything and make sure that everything works perfectly with everything else. And at some point, I think the switch happened probably 2 years ago or something. We just looked at it and went, there's so many characters now. There's so many killers, so many survivors, so many perks that there is no human way. Like maybe some Google super AI thing could make sense of it all, but for mere humans like us, it's a beautiful waltz of chaos, and you have to enjoy it for what it is and just jump in and get surprised and get, sort of get lost in the chaos.
It's a very interesting.
I don't even remember what the question was, but I'm rambling on. I like that.
No, that's what it's all about. Just some good conversations. And you mentioned as well, so much characters now, and especially so much perks. And have you guys ever thought about it? I'm sure you guys have thought about it, but are there any plans of reducing that grind, especially for the new players coming into the game with all of these perks coming on in?
It is true that right now a new player loading the game for the first time, it's a bit overwhelming. It's a bit much. Like there's so many things to learn. Like you guys are the examples of people who put way too much of your time into a game, and now you know all of it. Like as much as, let's say, hockey fans that know everything about the game and the details and the stats of every player and things like that. And that's wonderful. But for someone who comes in for the first time, the question always, at least for me, the question always is it possible right now to launch the game for the first time and play 2-3 games and have a good time, even though you don't understand half of what's happening? And I think it absolutely is. Dead by Daylight, one of the core elements of this game, one of the key reasons why it's fun is you are often surprised in that game. You don't know exactly what to expect, and you will be surprised, and things will happen that you didn't know about, and you're gonna make plans, and they're gonna crap out on you, and stuff is gonna happen. And at the end, you will have a story to tell. And every single game, you have a story to tell. There's a little something that happened, even though you've played 1 billion games right now. I'm just guesstimating, but I think it's about that. And every single time there's a little something that happened that you didn't predict, and you go, oh shit, did you see that? Just the last moment, and this thing happened. And I think that even though you, like a new player, may not understand exactly what happened and not understand what everyone was trying to do, because some people were doing some weird meta strategy or just memeing or whatever the hell, they still had a good time. They got surprised a couple times, they got scared, and that was beautiful. So I'm not too concerned about that. And so the idea of creating ways to better onboard people is always on our mind. And we've made some efforts throughout, the years of Dead by Daylight to make it more accessible, to make it easier for people to get into and understand. But I don't think it needs to become absolutely clear every step of the way. I think that the pleasure of discovery is part of the fun of it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the work you put into the tutorials even.
Yeah.
I think that's a great step.
Great, especially for the new guys coming in. Then you got the incentives as well to do it.
I remember that when we launched, we didn't have tutorials. What we had was telling people to go on YouTube, because we made like 4 videos telling people how to do stuff.
Yeah.
And back in my day, we never had any tutorials. We just jumped into the fog and learned as we went.
The entity was yay high back then.
Those were the good old days when rate was OP.
I think you were probably not born yet, King.
No. This is too far back for me.
That's it. Paulie and I were probably in high school at the time.
Oh man, it's crazy to really think about, how much things really have come out throughout the years. I remember making an angry tweet at Dave one day telling him to fix his game. And he was like, that's what we do every day.
It was you?
That was me.
He was the guy. He's the one who started it. Get him.
I literally started everything. Everyone that's writing those mean comments, I was the first.
Nobody was
man.
bitching on the internet before that.
Yeah, I know.
See what you did?
Blame it all on me.
King ruined Twitter.
King ruined Twitter. Oh, jeez. But yeah, it's crazy to think how far Dead by Daylight has come. You know, we started off with those crazy vault animations and looping didn't even exist back in the days, and now we're all the way up to...
You couldn't kick gens as a killer.
I know. You could have kicked gens. You could place traps on their feet. All the wacky perk combinations like Save the Best for Last and Unrelenting. The juggling, even that was later on. The juggling.
I still have like PTSD. I wake up in the middle of the night screaming, remembering playing against some Korean fans, and there was the purple flashlights.
Yeah. Is there any video of that? Did that ever get documented?
I don't think so. I don't know. It's on the internet, so you know the thing goes away after a couple of months.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, DBD has come a far way, and you guys now obviously introduced Boon Totems, which is a huge new mechanic in the game.
Yeah.
You know, I remember the last time you told us about something that you were really excited for, and I immediately was like, it has to be something huge. It was Head On. And Head On was fantastic. It brought in a whole new aspect to the game that you really couldn't think about during that time unless you were sitting there in the dev team, because everybody would be basing it off of prior history. Now with Boon Totems, we kind of had Hex Totems, but I still don't think people really expected something like this to come out.
Yeah.
So
that's gonna change. That's gonna change the game a little bit, and I think that, like many of the things that we've done in the past, I think that we are like, it's like the first X totem that we did. You're right. Before the totems existed, we had no idea, and then we did that one time for one thing when the Hag was released. We like, okay, that's a thing now. And now it is such a huge part of the game. And I think that Boon Totems are going to be like that. So it's very hard right now it's a little bit like the space elevator, you know, where you have a big thing that comes in and it takes forever. And then you have this, but from that point, now everything there's so much that can happen after that. So we did this step and we put that into the game. And now the next 6 months, I don't know, 2 years, are going to really show what that mechanic can do and how it can actually be useful, how perks can interact with it correctly, how new maybe killer powers can interact with that in a certain way. Like, all bets are off at this point. It's just a brand new mechanic that's in the game. The same with, you know, the endgame collapse, or all of these concepts that we've introduced at one time. And you know, it's funny because we've talked internally and externally a couple of times about like game modes, let's say different game modes. Everybody at some point asked the question, hey, are there going to be other game modes, like fix the car instead of generators or whatever else? And we've always thought it was a weird idea. We'd much rather bring in something like the endgame collapse or like the Boon Totems or something that can amplify everything else that we've done, rather than create a brand new game on the side and to a certain extent split the group into two. Like, there's the people who play this mode and there's the people who play this mode. I mean, it used to be because we were scared that we wouldn't have a critical mass of players, because it was a real problem at the beginning, like the first year or two. Nowadays, I think the game could very well support two completely different modes and have two different communities playing those two different modes. I don't think we'd get as much out of it, and I don't think the players would get quite as much out of it as us making the experience that we have right now richer and more diverse and more constantly surprising every time you play. I think that's where we're putting our bet right now, let's say. So to get back to the question at hand, the Boon Totem, to me it's really that. It's a stepping stone to a lot of stuff that we'll be able to do with that now.
So it's safe to say that in the same way that the hex totems aren't exclusive to the Hag, Boon Totems won't necessarily be exclusive to Michaela going forward in the future.
They are right now. That's the only certainty that is there. But obviously, I mean, it doesn't take a huge step to go. If they're fun, if people enjoy them, if these perks become extremely popular, why wouldn't we put more?
Right.
There's no good reason why we would limit that to a certain character. I think that the clever thing to do would be to try it on different things and try it with different flavors and let's see where that takes us.
Sounds pretty good. The future looks very blue, so to speak. And a similar question with the new Pinhead perks. We now see the introduction of Scorched Hooks.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about the Scorched Hooks? Is it something similar to the Boon Totem idea where we might see more of this coming out, or was it like a one and done type of thing? Obviously, we have the Hex versus Boons. Would we see something with Scorches coming more in the future?
That's a very good question, and the answer is I don't know. I'm sure like Dave or Matt Spriggans or a few others on the team would have quite a lot to say about that. This one, I don't know, to be absolutely blunt. I've played with it, and I see the potential, but I don't know what they have in store for that one. I don't know that it's as versatile or useful as a thing as the Boon Totems are, but I've been proven wrong very often, so.
Well, it's exciting. It's exciting to think about. It really is.
It's really good for what it is right now. I think it fits really well with Pinhead, but I don't know. I might very well be surprised again by our creative.
It's really interesting to see. And as you said, DBD has come so far, man. Just thinking about when you had just a few perks in the game, and now there's so much. It's truly outstanding.
Oh, how many perks do we have now?
It's like
I think
7
there's
pages.
95 for Survivor.
That's
a lot of perks.
That is a lot of perks. That is a lot of perks.
A couple less for Killer, I believe. It's 95.
Yeah, I think there's only 6 pages for Killer. Quite a few.
So many. I'd say many is a
many.
good
Many's a
yeah.
Oh man.
Kudos to the whole team for going through. I could just imagine you all in the office with this whiteboard. Well, I guess maybe it's a virtual office now.
Yeah.
With this whiteboard of all these perks and going through perk by perk and saying, okay, what can we do to make this perk better, but not overpowered to encourage people to use it more? The fact that you did this pass through on so many of the perks to change them, encourage people to try new things, shake up the meta, just to add more build diversity. Like, hats off to you on that.
I'll take all the credit for that. I did nothing.
It was all Matt. Did it all. No, it really is truly amazing to see. And you guys aren't stopping there. You know, Halloween's coming up, and you guys just announced today that we're going to be getting a brand new Halloween event. That's
going to
really
be a lot
awesome.
of stuff.
Lots of stuff.
We announced a couple things today.
I haven't even read through the blog because it just came out just before we started this interview, but I've just scrolling through it now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool things announced. We got some bacon going on. You might see some cool faces coming on there.
Yes, I'm super interested by that. There's some talented people on the team. I'll keep just doing Rice Krispie squares, but I made Rice Krispie squares this week, and those things are too good. It's dumb. It's the stupidest thing you can make, but anyway. So yes, there's going to be bacon.
There's going to be
the
baking.
Official release date for the mid chapter, October 19th. That's my birthday, by the way. And
really?
Yeah.
That's neat.
Tome 9 the next day.
I'm heading to my birthday too. It's November 1st for me.
Hey. So that'll be during the middle of the Halloween in-game event, October 21st to November 4th.
Yep.
Yeah, then they didn't extend it once for your birthday. I believe we extended.
I don't
it
think that
once
was
for your
done
birthday.
for my birthday. But,
We'll still roll with it.
I really don't have that kind of weight.
And then obviously we got some new merch coming out, so that's really awesome as
Yeah.
well. You guys announced that. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Looking forward to seeing what you guys have.
I
in
have
store.
to hold back from getting more merch because I do own quite a lot. To be honest, my closet is half Dead by Daylight, the other half is behavior. So really, I have to sort of slow down a little bit. But
Yeah, my wife is like, I never need to buy you t-shirts anymore. You have like
There
all
you go.
these related things to game and stuff. So is that in real life
my
merch?
Jeff shirt today.
I noticed. October 29th, new Halloween merch. That's for in real life? Like in the
believe
shop?
so. I believe so. Like,
Sounds
they
like
don't
it.
tell me these things. The only thing, the info I got was I'm reading the blog too, and I believe it's
Yeah.
real merch.
That's
pretty
very
exciting.
cool. I noticed
Looking
that
forward.
the shop was down for maintenance until tomorrow, so
Well, there's
probably
been
prepping for this.
quite a lot of work done on that shop in the last year. We have someone internally who's pretty much taking care of that exclusively now, and they've been doing really great work on it. So that's
Well, I
up,
hope
yeah.
it's doing well for you because it's the best iteration of a Dead by Daylight shop that we've had. So
Yeah.
Well,
sure.
I'll be a little transparent here. We're still making more money with the actual game than the merch, but yeah, no, it's doing well.
I don't find that hard to believe. Yeah, but
But there's some cool stuff in there.
Yeah.
wait,
you
wait
guys
a
are-
minute. You're telling me that you're selling more DLCs than your t-shirts? What?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
Still cool stuff though. Yeah.
Yeah. Then maybe you guys add the Funko Pops there, and you can increase some of those sales. From Paulie alone, he'll skew all the stats. by
You know
himself.
what? I will be very happy on the day when I can tell you that it's out.
Me too.
The big thing, the only thing I can say is that with the current world situation, the crazy situation that we're in right now, any physical goods are seeing a lot of delays. I mean, even just anybody who's tried to book a container to ship stuff, overseas, is aware that this is now extremely difficult. So any manufacturing of real life goods or shipping of goods is seeing a lot of delays.
Yeah, I've seen that in the news about the shortages and things.
Yeah.
You gotta wait a few years, Paulie. Hold
God.
those shelves.
I was hoping for 2021. 2000
But it is coming.
2022 for sure. Can you say that much?
No, I cannot say that much.
Damn
But I
it.
can
All
say
right.
that was my favorite part of the anniversary stream by a long margin.
Mine
yeah,
too.
It was good. It caught
It was
everyone
a great
off guard.
anniversary stream. Not gonna, put
Oh,
down
my
the
God.
rest of it. It
Yeah.
was a great stream, but that part was, I don't know if you know this. I'm a fan of Funko
Yeah.
Pops. That kind of resonated with
tell.
me a little bit.
You do sprinkle hints here and there.
You gotta be like me. Your chair needs to block them all in the back so you can't see them.
Well, that's because you can still block them all.
Wait a minute, I can do it too.
A little huff and puff and a little bit more than that.
Oh man. But going back to everything, Halloween
Yeah.
event is coming on up. We're seeing a new tome coming out as well with the
Yep.
Halloween event featuring Michaela, brand new survivor, and some other interesting characters. So walk me through what's going on with this event as much as you can, of course. How much is this different from last year? Whatever you can share, because we would love to know more
I'd
about the
really rather not. Just because I don't have all the exact information for this. I didn't study. So I don't want to say anything that's going to be wrong, because that would suck. But I can make sure you get all the info. And I could actually, if you really want to, I could probably get you a couple of minutes with Justin Banks, who is in charge of these kind of things.
No, that would be fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah. We're free all
He's
day.
the event organizer, right? Like I remember
It's part
seeing,
of his responsibilities, yes.
I remember seeing Justin on the live stream for one of the Lunar New Year ones, I believe. And
he was in the anniversary stream.
Yeah.
Very prim and proper guy.
Pretty exciting stuff, though. Pretty exciting stuff. So
yeah, there's gonna be a lot, and everything that's been announced, there's gonna be a few surprises on top of that. That's one thing I can say.
Well, we'll move on. Maybe we can speak to Justin and he'll get some more info on that. Let's see, what else do we got here? We got some good ones. So very, 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 very long time ago, 2 years ago to be exact, in our previous interview, it was the beginning of the reworks of the maps and the new creations of the future of DBD. You know, it was quite a time. Yeah, the realm beyond. It was quite a time. Stranger Things was just coming into DBD, and now sadly it's leaving. It's a full circle with the timing of these interviews. But I want to talk a little bit about, you know, the future for all of this, because there's a few maps left on the list. You know, we have Swamp left, we have Haddonfield left, for example. Do you guys have any ideas and plans already in motion about shifting gears from when this is finished? Or is it something that you want to keep doing throughout, going back every single time? What does the future look like in that sense?
That's a very interesting question, because we asked ourselves that internally. Because the big graphic update that we did was much needed. We wanted to make sure that the new consoles were coming out and people who played on a PS5 looked at this game as a game that has its place in that time. And also, it was also an opportunity to put all of the knowledge accumulated in the last 5 years, or 4 years at the time, into creating maps. Like we don't make maps the same way we did when we created, you know, the Macmillan estate. We learned a couple of tricks since then. We developed a way to do things that is I think much more efficient. So it's not going to be an ongoing process where we keep just redoing all the maps one after the other, and then when we get to the end, we're already starting back at the top, because, you know, by the time we get to the end, that's not going to be that. Maps, as opposed to characters and perks, maps they're okay to remove from circulation to a certain extent. Because even if we were just to put them in the garage or the workshop for the time being, because we want to rework them and put them back, there's so many maps and people don't pick maps. Therefore, it's not like we're preventing you from playing the way you want to play. And that's sort of the perspective that we have on there. So we know that there are maps that people hate, but usually not everybody agrees on which maps they should hate. If they were all agreeing on one map, then we'd probably take it out. But people are very vocal, but when we look at the stats, it's divided. Like, some people really like some and some people really hate some, and it's okay. It's okay because it's the playground on which everybody can sort of flex their muscles, and there needs to be an absolute randomizer for everybody to be able to be surprised when you go into the game. As opposed to, let's say, a League of Legends, where everybody jumps into the game and you know exactly where you're going to play, and you know all the rules and everything, so that you can actually... It makes it for a better sport, I guess.
Cut that out!
We'll just put a big bleep and say he said Pennywise is coming.
Alright, but my point is simply that the map rework is a constant effort, and we are gonna keep reworking different maps as we go along. The concerted effort that we did with the graphic update with the Realm Beyond was a one-time thing. It might be done again in 4 years when the PS6 is coming, I guess. I don't know. Maybe we'll do the GTA thing, you know? And they released on PS3 and on PS4, and now they're releasing on PS5 again. hopefully we'll still be able to do that. Although we don't ask people to buy it again. We're not Rockstar, so.
Yeah.
Fair.
Fair enough.
So a follow-up question to reworking some of these maps. We obviously have some licensed maps in the game.
Yep.
Is there ever a conversation that needs to take place if you were to look and to change things in these reworked maps? So like Haddonfield, do you need to go to the licensors and be like, should we change this? Do we have permission?
That's a very again, I have to speak in very general terms because every contract and every licensor is different. But as an overall rule, gameplay is not something that is usually discussed much, in the sense that like we're not gonna have a licensor approve the layout of the house. Like if it's gameplay and they understand that we're doing our game, they just want it's usually the visuals much more. Same with the characters. For killers, and for perks in certain cases, especially any licensors we talk to that are a little more game savvy, because some of them aren't. They're in the movie industry and they don't play games. They're not very familiar with the concepts of our game specifically. So sometimes we'll give them. Well, we always give them an idea of, for instance, the killer's powers and how they're going to be painted in the game, but we rarely have them approve specifics of gameplay because it's not necessary. But if they want to, yes, absolutely. In some cases, obviously, when you're talking to Konami or Capcom, they are much more versed in video games, and it's more significant for them to see how we're going to use gameplay mechanics to paint their characters in a different light. But when we do reworks on stuff, anytime we want to change a model or a texture or an animation or a voice, all of these things need to go through licensing. If some licensors don't really care much and it's more of a rubber stamp and it's more us being transparent with them and they're like, oh, thank you for letting us know, good, move on. And some are extremely specific about, yeah, that's not the exact shade of the color of the hair of that character, so please don't make that change. And that's absolutely fine. Like if we go back to the idea of a museum, we need to be able to show proper respect to those legends that we invite into our game, and the representation that we do of them needs to be the proper homage that it wants to be. Same way that, you put a piece of art in a museum and you put a strobe light in front, people are not going to be able to see it the way the artist wanted it to be perceived.
So on that point, one concern I've seen in the community is with the Stranger Things license leaving.
Yeah.
The belief is that there won't ever be able to have any balance changes made to the Demogorgon character as far as power add-on, things like that. And I've always contended that those are balance decisions are up to you as the game designer, and that isn't part that's covered by the license holder.
That is a very sound argument that you make.
Okay. Very good. I think that'll ease a lot of people concerns.
Yeah. That's good to know. And the last thing about maps while we're on the topic, obviously it's been quite a while since we received an original map coming into the game. And we had some fantastic
Would you like
chapters.
one?
I would like one.
I'll take more than one.
I'll take a few if you have them.
Okay.
But are these things on the horizons, and will you ever maybe even one coming up? Anything else on the side of a golden toolbox? Gotcha. But yeah, is that something you guys are ready to jump back into? Will you go back to some previous chapters? Maybe we had some fantastic original chapters, and maybe give them some great maps. We obviously had the Trickster, and everyone wants those neon city lights. What's
I
on
will
the
answer
horizon?
with a question. If we were doing that, would I be able to tell you?
No, you would not. I don't
You would
imagine.
not be able to
A
tell
lot
us.
of people really want a burnt-out music studio in Korea, though. That would be
Yeah,
a really cool map.
that
So
would be a
fingers
really
crossed.
cool map. You're right.
Damn it!
This close. All right. That actually takes us to our last question of this interview.
Okay.
Basically, the question you always get asked, what is your personal wish list for what's to come into DBD? This is obviously the museum right now. You guys have so much things. Game development aside, your personal, like, I want this. It can even
Green
be rubber.
license, you don't have to worry about any of the loopholes.
Next you're gonna tell me it's gonna be off the record or something, but no. I can't. Like anything that is even remotely possible at this point is impossible for me to discuss.
Okay.
Unfortunately, what I can say is I would really like to see some of our original characters come into other games. That's what I'd like to see next. And I have a few candidates in head. I don't know if you're thinking of the same ones that I am, but I would like to see. I can say that one that I tried.
Smashbros?
Well, that's the first one I tried, to be absolutely honest. I was talking to some people at Nintendo, and I did ask them, like, what would it take to get the Trapper in Smash Bros? And they said, well, first of all, he's at least qualified because Smash Bros characters always have to come from video games. They cannot come from movies or TVs or others. But they also cannot come from M-rated games. I'm like, shit.
I did not know that.
Well,
None of it either.
There might be exceptions, and they have to be toned down dramatically. But yeah, so it was a big disappointment. But and I asked them if we could bring Luigi in Dead by Daylight, and they said no. Like, no.
So
The
close.
crossover that was this close.
It is
That's
close.
right.
It was that close.
He does have a haunted mansion, so he's
I
used the
mean,
spooky things.
Makes sense.
But no, they don't want him to be hit over the head by a rusty hammer and then put on a hook. Go figure.
Well, you guys heard it. Minecraft collab coming. Meg's gonna
No,
be in Minecraft running around.
Not happening.
Never mind. It's not happening. I take it back. Stop the theories. But
If you know
yeah,
someone that can put the Trapper in Mortal Kombat, I could take that.
well, that could be a good one. Everyone's writing their theories already. The comments are going crazy.
Get on the phone. Like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever.
Oh man, Paulie, do you have any final questions you would like to
I'm
ask?
just trying to look
Matthew?
and see if any of these are excluded from the rapid fire yes no pass.
Well, let's go with that.
Okay,
then.
so you have said that you, in previous interviews that I have watched, I don't know if this comes as a surprise to you, but I watched other interviews that you have done from time to time.
Look.
Oh,
It's
Puppy. What's Puppy's
Aw.
name?
Buffy.
Buffy.
Buffy the
Buffy.
Buffy
Aw.
Summers.
Aw, Buffy Summers.
There.
You're so nice. You give all your pets first and last names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, that's it. Sorry for the
No,
interruption.
not an interruption at all. So I've watched other interviews you've done, and I've seen you allude to we're going to find other ways to tell our characters' stories beyond the lore that we get
did
in
say
the Rift.
that, huh?
Yes. So this would probably be another thing that you can't talk about, I would imagine.
I so wish I could, though. There's some
Okay.
really, really cool stuff I want to talk about on that front.
Well, it sounds very exciting.
Thanks
then, if
for
you're-
bringing it up, Paulie.
If you
but
wish
yes,
we could talk about it in school, it's probably going to be very exciting, and the community will be jazzed to see it when it does reach fruition. Something to look forward to.
Like, people love the Dead by Daylight characters. People love the stories that we've told, and the archive have shown that people want to get more in depth and discover the sort of weird backgrounds and things. And there are many other ways to tell those stories, and we are using them.
Man,
DBD
you really
TV
got
show
me
coming up.
racking my
Also,
brain on that
on
one.
that note-
Other than me going Netflix, I'm like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. But
we
I
also
sure look
have one or
forward to
two interesting twists coming to the archive. Then you can
Aha.
pester Justin about that.
it. All right.
Ooh. Ending on a high note. Oh,
Okay,
man.
so rapid fire.
Yes.
Rapid fire. So let's jump into the rapid fire.